Get ready to dive into the comic book realm, where heroes rise and villains take the helm. We're here to dissect the stories and the art. On source material, we tear the panels apart.
All right, let's go ahead. I have much more to say about these other two books, and I think a lot of it has to do with the unique subject matter and the way that the stories are told. Let's start with The Crow. All right. So
I hear they made a movie of this.
They did, as a matter of fact, and a kick-ass soundtrack as well. Let me just ask you first, when you were a young lad collecting comic books, did you hear of The Crow before the movie?
I found out it was a comic book after. I want to say, actually, I knew of the soundtrack before I knew of the movie.
Oh, really? Oh, one of those.
It had Pantera on it.
Yes, it did.
I think my connection to The Crow is through Pantera, but all of those bands, which we talked about on a Metal Hammer Review, if I remember correctly, it had Pantera on it. It had
Nine Inch Nails.
Nails
had
it
Rage
had
Against
a
the
lot.
Machine.
It had a lot of bands. The Rollins Band.
Yep. Rollins Band doing Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Motorcycle. Hero. Like he's gonna shit his fucking pants. Henry Rollins.
Henry
ruined a pair
Rollins.
of pants getting that song out, but it was worth it. My Life with a Thrill Kill. That's what I was thinking of. So here's the entire, and like this is like wow, the 90s. It was The Cure, Machines of Loving Grace, Stone Temple Pilots, Nine Inch Nails, doing a Joy Division cover, Rage Against the Machine, The Violent Femmes, the Rollins Band. That Ghost Rider song is actually a cover of a song from the band Suicide. Helmet, Pantera covering Poison Idea. I told you back then, my friend Curly, where at the end of the badge, it's like, what's behind the badge? But because it's Phil Anselmo and he kind of warbles it, it sounds like what big eyes you have. So for the longest time, knowing full well what he's really saying, the end of that song is always, Emma, what big eyes you have. Nothing to do with the song, but
Perfect.
anyway.
Man.
For Love Not Lisa, My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, The Jesus and Mary Chain, Medicine, and Jane Siberry. I was a huge Pantera fan. I got the Crow soundtrack. All my friends are goth. I'm kind of goth adjacent. We should watch this movie. It's amazing. And then I promptly forgot about it.
I'm sure you've heard about Brandon Lee.
That was the other thing. It was the mythology tied to the movie about his untimely and strange death and it being somewhat similar to the way his dad died. That made the news. But even then, my friends were making a huge deal out of it. I was like, oh, it sucks to be him. That stuff doesn't necessarily affect me the way that it should.
Sure.
We did the Long Road to Ruin on The Crow way back when. We did the original and then the second movie. It was one episode and the 3 and 4 were the second episode. We talked a lot about this last year when the Crow remake came out from Lionsgate, formerly a studio. And I talked about how like The Crow is just a really perfect movie and it's not so easily recreated. It was definitely a product of its time. And I will tell you, after having read the book, I now understand why if anyone read this book in that era and you were even tangentially part of the goth culture, this was like your fable. This was mythology. Aesthetically spoke to kids living in that time, probably the way nothing else did besides the music of the era.
It's so
or Tim Burton movies.
So I think I'm 13 when I first hear about The Crow. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting you bring up goth.
And you were like mired in the goth culture, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah.
Eyeshadow and everything.
Oh, my goodness.
Which was the style in the Appalachians.
Yes. I went to the mall. I fit right in. I remember talking to some girls that didn't go to my school. Mm-hmm. I can remember she was definitely, if you're going to call anyone I knew a goth, she was probably a goth. And she talked about this comic book. So this is 1991. I assume this is prior to the 5th book coming out. But anyway, I remember she was the first person that actually brought that up to me. And I was like, oh, hey, a girl that actually reads comics is talking to me about comic books. And I'll never forget it.
You tore a hole in your pants.
Swing! Appropriate for the time.
Yes.
I remember her bringing that up and being amazed. Oh, okay. Well, what's this stuff about The Crow? And I remember I probably had a Overstreet comic book price guide that listed it in it, but I didn't know what in the world it was until the movie drops. The movie drops, and then I watched the movie, And I still never had a chance to read The Crow until we did this show.
It's an odd thing because we've done so many of the big pillar books, and I'm counting me, but you've done it on your own. Whether or not I'm not always on source material, sometimes you talk to other people.
I do,
but like when you think about some of the really big pillar comics that are out there, we've done so many of them, and this was just a giant oversight that I wanted to correct.
Yeah, I was glad to have the opportunity to talk about it tonight because I had never read it and I've been wanting to read it. This is actually a graphic novel that I own. I got it at an auction 3-4 years ago.
Oh, really? So I bought the art for this special edition that I have up on the screen. That's the one I bought. I bought the hardcover special edition for the show.
Well, yeah, I bought it. I think I got it in an auction with a very large amount of trade paperbacks.
I'm with a young goth girl as part of the auction.
No, unfortunately not. I don't remember any girls being at that auction.
Like they're in the long box.
They come up, it's like a vampire.
I can't breathe this thing.
James O'Barr is, I think, the sole person that's doing this. I didn't see any other names attached to this. So James O'Barr conceived, created it. And in order, now this is straight from the wiki, and I kind of want to read this because we are definitely going to be talking about it. He created this character, created the book in order to help him get over the loss of his fiancée. Now,
yes, this was a trauma exercise.
This is in 1978. He loses his fiancée. He starts working on this in the early 80s. It doesn't get published by Caliber Press until 1989. First 4 books come out in 1989. Book 5 doesn't come out until 1992. There's a large gap to finish the story. After the death of his fiancée, he goes into the Marines. I don't know if that has anything to do with the large gap in between, but regardless, he was...
We're going out to fight the enemy now. I'm trying to finish my comic book. I'm very sad. You're going to need to put that away, soldier.
There was very much like, after reading a good bit of what was on the wiki, it felt like I don't want to say he had a death wish, but it was very much like a situation where, okay, hey, I'm going to go into the military now. I don't know if it's a situation where he was wanting to get his mind off of what happened, but
you're talking like passive suicidal ideations, where I don't actively want to kill myself, but if I put myself in a position where it's likely to happen, I will not fight it either.
And there is some of that in this book.
Yeah.
So here's a gist. The Crow, a raw, unflinching blend of revenge tragedy, gothic romance, and surreal poetry. A graphic novel that bleeds equal parts beauty and brutality. Across 5 books, James O'Barr weaves the story of Eric, a man murdered alongside his fiancée, Shelly, and pulled back from the grave by a supernatural crow to exact vengeance on the men who destroyed their lives. It's not just a tale of payback. It's a fever dream of love and loss where moments of tender memory crash violently against scenes of stark, stylized violence. Each confrontation with Shelley's killers is more than action. It's a reckoning steeped in dark humor, haunting imagery, and Eric's lyrical voice, giving the book an almost musical rhythm of rage and reflection. From grimy back alleys to quiet snow-covered graves, the Crow, not the snow. The snow informer. Okay, the Crow. The Crow marries punk rock grit with gothic elegance, making it as emotionally resonant as it is visually striking. For readers drawn to stories where love refuses to die and justice comes from black wings. We got Eric, who is engaged to be married to Shelly. They go out on a drive and run afoul of some very bad ne'er-do-wells who do some really bad things to these people. Number one, killing Eric and then raping and killing Shelly. It's bad. So the Crow shows up and gives Eric supernatural powers. I don't know. You can't tell if he's actually dead or not, because in the book, after he's shot, he gets taken to the hospital and he is still able to speak, even though he was shot in the back of the head and shot again. Shortly after that, they're working on him. You can hear somebody say that they flatlined. But the thing that I got from the movie was Eric Draven was brought back from the dead and therefore was, exacting vengeance. But it almost makes it seem like they just leave it ambiguous enough to make you think like maybe he did survive and he just has some kind of supernatural power. So before we get into the discussion with Mark, I want to lay out my immediate thoughts after reading the book. What stands out most to me is how well this book balances two very different energies. The raw, unrelenting grief of a man who's lost everything, and the supernatural revenge quest of someone who can no longer be hurt physically. We see Eric's pain in the way he relives those moments with Shelly over and over, but it's never overdone. Each chapter moves him closer to the next person responsible, with the final confrontation with T-Bird feeling like the moment the whole sum of these issues was building toward. Pain is the engine here. Emotional pain is what drives Eric forward. Physical pain doesn't even register anymore. That makes him feel less like a man and more like a force of nature. A force that turns his own suffering into physical punishment for the people who wronged him. In that way, the book leans toward vengeance as justice. He's not simply lashing out. He's answering a wrong that in his mind demands an equal weight in blood. The setting is just as important. Those rain-soaked streets, the dingy apartments, the alleys lit only by a flickering neon sign. They're the physical reflection of Eric's inner world. A story this angry and lost wouldn't work in a field of flowers. Character-wise, before his death, Eric wasn't some disconnected ghost. He was fully in love with Shelly. His ghosthood begins after the murder. We see flashes of tenderness with her, moments that punctuate the violence, and that constant back and forth in tone makes the loss really hit hard. We even see him extend mercy once, giving a quick, painless death to someone he promised it to. But for the rest, no boundaries. Sherry, the little girl he meets, adds another layer of injustice. Her innocence and her suffering make you want justice for her too. Stylistically, O'Barr uses non-linear flashbacks and surreal moments in a way that feels true to trauma. Memories come when they come, triggered by small things. The contrast between the soft, painted look of the memories with Shelly and the harsh black and white revenge scenes makes the emotional shifts even sharper. And he often leaves the most brutal acts off-panel, which somehow make them hit harder, like with T-Bird's death. Knowing O'Barr's own story changes the way you read The Crow. His fiancée, Beverly, was killed before he joined the Marines, and the real-life murder of a young couple over a $20 ring helped shape the book. You can see these parallels. The wish fulfillment of being invincible, the compulsion to inflict pain on those who caused it, and the darkness in knowing that this didn't bring him catharsis. In fact, O'Barr said it made him more self-destructive. That's a current you can feel on every page.
I want to talk about Shelly.
Okay.
I wrote you earlier. I was just like, this is relationship goals besides the rape and murder. I'm not a romantic, and I'm just talking about this on my TikTok live. I've more or less gotten over the stuff with the ex and the falling apart of my marriage. I've been ready to just move upwards and onwards and move on to better things. It didn't work out. As long as she doesn't come after me or try to take away my kids, I don't really care anymore. I'm moving on. I'm not the most romantic of people to begin with. Before I met my current girlfriend, I was kind of resigned, especially because I was still separated, not married, and not divorced, to just not necessarily being partnered. 2 marriages and a lot of really bad dating experiences. I was like, I don't think there's someone for me. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just doing art, raising my kids, working in that order, and moving on with my life. And I read a book like this, and I was like, this reminds me that deep down inside, this is a relationship I would want. Like, it is so perfectly romantically ethereal. You know, Shelly and Eric are, for me, I can see why this resonated with a lot of girls back when I was a teenager. Because for the girls that I knew, this was romance for gothic girls.
This is their ideation of what love is.
We have a comment here. I think if you're this deep into art, books, and movies, you have to be a romantic. That's certainly an idea. I can't really fight you on that. My point being that I long to have the kind of energy and romance that Eric and Shelly had. And Shelly is by no means, to me, that real. Like, she is all the energy of somebody who is chaotic and none of the toxicity that normally comes with that. It's beautiful. It's completely fictional, but it's beautiful. And Eric, well, I said I was like goth adjacent because I wasn't really goth. I that's just not me. I've always been kind of a burly, angry, metal, snarling guy. So the sensitive, gothy guy isn't really something that appeals to me either. But he's such a good match for her, and she's such a good match for him. They have this wild energy together, and I'm like, in a perfect world, that's what I want. I want to be Eric, and I want my Shelly, boobs and all. The James O'Barr was definitely working through some stuff. He gave her Power Girl tits, minus the window. My point is, it was like he says such sweet things that he ruins them. Part of what appeals to me about this book is the romance, and that's what makes what happens to her so tragic. Like, rape and murder is such a part of fiction, unfortunately, and a part of the life experience, even more unfortunately, that you have to really frame it properly for it to have impact. And that's the thing. It happens so much later in the book. You know it's gonna happen because he talks about it the whole time. You know, you're going through his revenge tale, and at the end of the book, you realize how in love they were and what a tragic set of circumstances it was that she was taken from the world too early. It's like a modern telling of, like, in the sense of romantic tragedy, that's Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
And it's funny because I was having this conversation with somebody recently. It might have been my son. Romeo and Juliet's kind of a dumb story. It's just like, oh, I think you're dead and we don't have medicine to know otherwise, so I'll kill myself. Oh, I was not dead. I was alive, but now I'll be dead again because you are dead and we are dumb. So, but it's tragic. You know, it's like these young people, if only they hadn't done a Three's Company, they'd still be alive. This doesn't have that. That doesn't have like that level of like misunderstanding and stupidity. This is just pure, unadulterated, romantic tragedy. And it's not the kind of thing I normally love, but I love this. It's been a while since I've read anything as good as The Crow, which is weird because I didn't think The Crow was going to be this good. But yeah, I really, like, when it was over, I kind of teared up a bit. I got emotional when it was over.
The 3 years between book 4 and book 5, one would say that's a long wait, but really, what a payoff.
Yeah.
I mean, that 5th issue is...
God, it makes me angry at the Lionsgate remake.
I thought about that. I've never seen it. You covered it. I might have listened to you guys talk about it, do the review, but I just remember the sentiment was it was not good. That's unfortunate because what was missing from that film compared to this book? Can you say off the top of your head?
I don't think the relationship is as good in the movie as it is in the book.
Okay.
I have to go back and rewatch it again, but thinking back to my experiences, like I showed it to my kids about a year or two ago, and I remember watching it with them and thinking, like, the best part of this movie is watching him kill the goons.
Oh, yeah.
It's the action of the movie.
Sure.
His relationship with the kids was really, really good. The curing of the mom from her morphine addiction and helping mend that relationship between the daughter and the junkie mom, that's all good. The weakest stuff is him and the girlfriend. Like, I don't think the people who made that movie understood the girlfriend character. And I didn't think about it because I hadn't read the book before, so I just assumed she wasn't a big part of the book, or she was just kind of your average tart. And she's not. Like, she's something. They wrote her something special in this book.
Yeah, it is Eric's reason for living. And then after she dies, she's still the reason he's living.
It's so funny because you're talking to the person who has never forgiven Sam Raimi for that opening line in Spider-Man. Like, all things, it was about a girl. Can we not? So you would think I would reject this out of hand, but this is good.
Yeah. It's a pure romance at the beginning, and it's just something that gets ruined.
She has this manic pixie spirit energy. I am the spirit of joy, and it's like he's healed through her, and just as soon as that happens, it's all taken away from him, and that's the tragedy.
Yeah, and man,
it's as good as her should not have had such a brutal ending.
I wonder how much of... Because he lost his fiancée. O'Barr lost his fiancée at 18 years old. You know, when you're young and there's not a lot of cynicism in your life yet, that comes later. You know,
you think true love is real?
I'm certain that he felt like he lost his whole world.
Yeah.
And
he was never going to dance again because Guilty Feet had no rhythm.
there is a real thing that I was picking up on.
Mhm.
You know, when you lose somebody, I think it was a car accident that she died in. When you lose somebody like that, being a superhero is something that you probably wish you could be to make the other ones pay.
He's the spirit of vengeance, like Ghost Rider is the spirit of vengeance. You know, I think there's like the sort of tragic, depressive, gothic power fantasy. I want to be so powerful I can avenge. I can take
Right.
revenge on behalf of that person. Talk about drug addiction, being a mental health professional. The first time you do serious drugs, it's awesome, but you'll never have that feeling again. The first time you really move the needle on your internal pleasure meter, it gets hard to recreate that feeling with almost anything, love included.
Yeah. I got a few questions here for you. You ready?
Is it about her tits?
I think you've got your side across there pretty well.
Oh,
what your
okay. I
thoughts
wasn't sure
were.
if I was being clear.
Some of the best parts of this book and the climax of this book, in my opinion, happens off panel.
Yeah.
Would you have rather seen it on the page, or are you okay with the hammer in his hand, T-Bird laying down, and that's the last thing you see?
There's a line said mostly by women to men of, I don't want you to stop what you're doing. I want you to want to do something with me. I don't want to tell you to come spend time with me. I want you to want to spend time with me. Like, I think women, for their own sort of childhood princess power fantasies, is a guy that will go through heaven and earth to prove their loyalty and devotion to you. You know, I will kill dragons and I will rope a star and do all the Herculean deeds just to be close to you, to show you how much I love you. And that's the mentality of a lot of girls. And I feel like that was James O'Barr's kind of journey in this book of, I don't know how else to tell you how much I love you, how much you mean to me, and how bereft of being whole I am without you. So I'm going to send this character on this journey because this isn't necessarily about killing people. It's about healing trauma. You don't necessarily have to see all the gore. It's about loyalty and the justice that flows from that. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Right. As far as the art style goes, this was black and white, but we definitely have some change in specific parts of the book, specifically the dream/memory sequences.
Mm-hmm.
Where it becomes, oh God, would you call that painted almost? I mean, it's still black and white, but it looks very paintbrushy to me for some reason. When you have
my interpretation was like he was using a mime as metaphor. You know, mimes don't talk and they kind of interact in the world. When you see someone doing mime, they are interacting in a world in a way that's different from everybody else. For the mime, it's real. But the mime is sort of operating on a ghost world that's also occupying the same time and space as the real world. That's what I feel like that's why I think he dresses. Look, this is his imagination. He could have done the Crow anyway. He could have dressed him up like Batman. He specifically gave him a very specific look. That's why I was like, I think he was going for mime, and I think for him, that's what mime is.
Yeah. I love when the Crow's out on the street. I mean, it looks gritty. It looks grimy. The lines are all sharp. And the dream sequences, just to get that across, it's more paintbrushy. It's more airy. It seems like it's more fantasy filled.
So I mentioned something about Shelly's body type. He also could not have given Eric any less of a waist.
And like 20 abs.
Yeah, you draw Tony Stark, you draw Captain America or Thor, and they still look like an appropriate male body shape. And then there's this motherfucker, you know, who look like he should be selling Calvin Klein jeans.
Apparently, we talk about how O'Barr did this, and he's, you know, talked about it. Other people talk about it. The foreword in the book that I read talked about how he was using this to process what was going on with the tragedy that happened in his life. He came out and said that this, as much as he wanted to be cathartic, actually made him more self-destructive. What do you think of that?
There are people who say I would prefer to not talk about my trauma. It's going to dredge up a lot of stuff, and I don't really have the scaffolding to support it right now. When I was first going through social work school and I did a group, I was really good about getting people to talk. And I ended the session and we hadn't really resolved anything or put a capstone on it. Now when I talk to people, if we get into a really heavy, intense session where there's a lot of emotion, about the last 5 to 10 minutes, I will lighten the mood. There was a girl who we would have very intense sessions, and then for the last 5 minutes, I would mansplained basketball to her because it got her mind off
What was going on?
Yeah.
Right.
But she couldn't give a fuck less about basketball. What she needed was to get pulled out of, like when I did my own EMDR therapy with my therapist after Melissa and I initially split, the last 10 to 15 minutes, the therapist always made sure to get me out of it again, because you can get stuck there, you know, and sort of relive. Like part of one of the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder is flashback, you know, it's like reliving the trauma. And it
that's happening in The Crow here.
It can absolutely happen through therapy, and that's why the therapist has to really take great pains to make sure you're not there. Like, all right, lots of luck. You're like, no. You know?
Yeah, that's definitely happening here in The Crow. This was a great book. I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to sit down and absorb this. Reading this and understanding what Obar went through, you could clearly tell he's trying to work through what happened to him. There's a lot of wish fulfillment in this character. He put out a piece that was raw, just like the gist said. It was raw.
Someone tell Lana Wachowski this is how you should work through your trauma, not with someone's $200 million movie budget. Psycho.
All right. Good book all around. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.